Welcome to POSH Deep Dive, a series that goes beneath the surface of India's prevention of sexual harassment law. In every episode, we explore the real meaning behind the act. Come, let's listen to one story, one deep dive at a time.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling something really serious. Sensitive, yes, but also legally critical. We're talking about the manager's role as, well, the absolute first responder in handling sexual harassment complaints. We're looking specifically at guidance around the POSH Act, that's the Protection of Women from Sexual Harassment Act.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging territory. And it's because, the manager has to make this immediate, pretty difficult pivot. Suddenly, they're not just the team lead or a colleague. They become the first point of contact, the initial liaison for a legal process.
Right.
And our sources really stress this. Getting that initial response right, it's not just about protecting the employee involved. It actually strengthens the whole organization's commitment to respect, to inclusivity. Get those first steps wrong and, well, it can put the whole thing in jeopardy.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this a bit. Our mission here, for you listening, is to really distill the mindset shifts needed and, crucially, the actual steps. We want to move past just theory and get practical. What do you do? The moment an employee comes to you, we'll cover the legal side, the absolute need for empathetic support, and also how you manage the rest of the team while sticking to the rules. So an employee comes forward, the first thing, the absolute immediate priority has got to be a support, right? But what's the foundational thing a manager needs to do to build that trust? Especially when they're switching hats, from friendly boss to this official contact?
Well, the foundation really starts with giving them your time. And crucially, not putting that conversation off. If someone says they need to talk about something important or personal, the guidance is crystal clear. Find a private space immediately.
Hi.
Then once you're there, the manager has to create a safe and empathetic environment. But here's the tricky part, the mindset shift.
Okay.
That empathy, it absolutely has to be paired with strict impartiality.
Impartiality. That sounds simple, but I imagine in a small team where the manager probably knows both people involved, how do you actually stay neutral?
That is the real challenge, isn't it? You have to remember, you are not the judge here. You're receiving information. That's it. So during that first conversation, you absolutely must avoid asking questions that sound biased or prejudiced or even doubtful.
Like what sort of questions should they avoid?
Things like, are you sure that's how they meant it? Or what were you wearing? Definitely not, why did you wait so long to say something? Those are out. Completely.
Got it. So the manager's job isn't investigation, it's not judgment. That power belongs strictly to the Internal Complaints Committee, the IC. So if that's the boundary, what is a manager supposed to do, procedurally speaking?
Procedurally, the manager's role is really quite focused. It's to guide the employee on what happens next. As soon as it looks like the issue falls under the company's POSH policy, the manager needs to tell the employee about that policy, explain the mechanisms available, and then, crucially, help them understand how to contact the IC to make a formal complaint, if they choose to.
But I can see managers feeling pressure, maybe, to sort it out quickly, or even push for a formal complaint just to, cover the company. Is that okay?
No, absolutely not. That's a huge red flag in the guidance. It specifically says, do not push the employee to go down a path they're uncomfortable with, the decision. Filing that formal complaint, it has to be entirely theirs. The manager just lays out the option, the IC process, maybe an informal resolution if the policy allows it. That's it.
And if the manager feels unsure about any of this?
Then they pause. They maintain confidentiality above all else, and they get guidance from HR immediately. Don't guess.
Right. And that support doesn't just end after that first meeting, does it? There's ongoing sort of logistical support needed during the investigation, too.
Exactly. That means practical help. Making sure the people involved can attend IC meetings without worrying about their workload. It might mean helping manage tasks to free up their time, maybe even rearranging reporting lines temporarily if it helps prevent contact. The manager acts like a logistical shield, you could say. Mm-hmm. And, connecting this to the legal side of things, what's really striking is how seriously sexual harassment is treated legally. There's significant accountability, which means managers absolutely have to dot the I's and cross the T's procedurally. This isn't just about empathy anymore, it's compliance.
And the absolute bedrock rule here, it seems, the one mentioned again and again, is confidentiality. Total confidentiality. This feels like a place managers could easily slip up, even meaning well. So who really needs to know? And what happens if confidentiality gets breached?
Well, the need-to-know circle is incredibly small. Basically HR, the IC itself, and maybe someone helping with logistics if it's essential. But even then, only the bare minimum. The risks of a breach, they're huge. You could completely undermine the investigation, taint evidence. It could lead to internal disciplinary action, even legal liability if the breach causes defamation or more harassment. Confidentiality is just fundamental to a fair process.
And that confidentiality extends beyond just the manager, right? What about the rest of the team? Office gossip is, well, inevitable sometimes. How does a manager shut that down?
They have to be proactive. The manager needs to make it clear, the case, the details, the people involved. None of it is workplace discussion fodder. Let's say you overhear two team members talking about the complaint by the coffee machine. What do? You step in right away, address it directly, tell them to stop, remind them about the confidentiality policy. And then this is key. You document that breach happened and you report it straight to the IC. Stop the talk, report the infraction. That's the process.
Okay. And beyond managing the team chatter, there's the manager's own documentation. This isn't just scribbling a few notes, is it?
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
It needs to be rigorous, accurate, objective, timely. That means recording every step. When the complaint came in, dates, times, locations, specific factual details of what was said or happened. But, and this is vital, doing all that while keeping the complainant's identity strictly confidential within those notes. Keep them secure, separate from regular files.
And this record keeping isn't just CYA for the manager, right? It serves a bigger purpose.
Oh, absolutely. The manager could easily be called as a witness by the IC during the investigation. That careful documentation, that's potential evidence. So managers have to cooperate fully with the IC, stay neutral, and hand over everything relevant they have. Their role is to preserve and present facts. Period.
Okay, so we've covered the reactive steps, the support, the procedures, the legal must-dos. Now let's shift gears. Moving beyond just responding to an incident, how does the manager actively build a culture that prevents this stuff in the first place? This feels like a different kind of work.
It is. And the first most critical part of that culture building is the absolute mandate against retaliation. The person who came forward must be protected from any form of retaliation, whether it's obvious or really subtle. And it could come from the accused, sure, but also the wider team, or even, and this is easily missed, the manager themselves.
That manager self-awareness piece, that sounds like where the rubber really meets the road. It's asking the manager to look inward at their own potential biases. How might that subtle retaliation from a manager actually look?
Yeah, it's rarely overt, right? And often it looks like avoidance. The manager starts giving tasks through someone else instead of talking directly to the complainant. Or maybe they start micromanaging deadlines just for that person. Or, weirdly, they might become overly lenient in a performance review, maybe trying to make up for the awkwardness. The guidance is clear. Managers have to actively check their own professional behavior towards the complainant. Make sure it doesn't change for the worse, especially around core duties, handing out work, mentoring, performance reviews. Professional fairness has to stay constant.
So managers need to constantly monitor themselves, ensure consistency. What about proactively preventing issues across the whole team?
Well, it's about ensuring teams aren't just ticking a box on training, but are actually trained on the protocols. Managers need to know the POSH policy updates themselves, maybe run short awareness refreshers, and really reinforce what's in the mandatory training. Because, let's face it, training only sticks if management actually models and talks about the expected conduct.
And that communication piece seems key for reinforcing the culture. Using team meetings, maybe. Not just for project stuff, but to regularly talk about keeping the workplace safe, reinforcing the code of conduct, especially maybe before team events or parties.
Yes, exactly. That pre-event reinforcement, that's really highlighted in the material. Managers should proactively talk about responsible socializing, sensible drinking, safe ways to get home before any social gathering. The overall goal is to create an environment where people feel they can genuinely speak up without fearing judgment or damage to their career. It's about building that safety net before anyone needs it. And if we sort of zoom out, look at the bigger picture. The manager isn't just a first responder, they're a cultural anchor. The guidance suggests they should actively work with the internal committee, see them as a partner, an ally, all year round, not just when a complaint lands.
That partnership idea, that feels like a real game changer. It shifts things from just reacting from compliance mode. It means interventions aren't just some knee-jerk reaction when a complaint happens, but part of a continuous, planned effort, baked into the culture.
Precisely. You leverage the IC's expertise. They can help managers spot potential friction points, maybe hot spots in the team's dynamics. They can help emphasize good practices throughout the year, maybe based on anonymized trends they're seeing. The IC often has insights a manager might miss. And this sustained effort, that's what builds real trust, real respect. The end result, as the sources conclude, is a workplace that feels safer, more open. People feel genuinely supported. And there's a clear business benefit too. Happy employees, people who trust their manager, actually has their back. They just work better together. Makes sense.
That really gives us a solid framework for what is, let's be honest, a very difficult role. So we've covered those 3 key pillars for managers, that impartial support and non-judgmental guidance right at the start. Then the rigorous legal stuff, documentation, absolute confidentiality. And finally, that ongoing proactive work, building the culture, preventing retaliation.
Right. And that continuous partnership with the IC, turning managers from, say, firefighters into cultural architects, that feels like the biggest strategic takeaway. Which actually brings up an important question for you, the listener, to think about. Beyond the required training, beyond just sending out the policy document, what specific ongoing good practices can you, as a manager, weave into the daily fabric of your team? How do you embed respect into feedback sessions, into everyday interactions, into how projects are run, so that dealing with these issues becomes less of a crisis reaction and more just, part of an ally-driven strategy for a healthy workplace, something to mull over?
Some important food for thought there. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into these absolutely crucial managerial responsibilities. We really hope this helps empower you to lead with both empathy and that necessary legal professionalism.